But I tell you, their plans for Anita will bring her to her knees. And this goes for every Ugandan. So let's start with Anita Among.
Mu mawulire ge tulinawo wetwogereranga ebya Anita Among speaker wa parliament si birungi buli ddakiika eyitawo byeyongera kubeera nga byonooneka nkuleetedde ebigambo ebyogeddwa ku nsonga ez'enjawulo mukyala wa Jacob Oulanyah oba nnamwandu wa Jacob Oulanyah ku nsonga za Nnaalongo Anita Among ate nga bingi byayogedde ne ku nsonga z'omukulu Jeno Yoweri Kaguta Museveni ku nsonga z'okulayira mwalaba omukulu ng'agenze maaso n'okulayira mu kisanja kino ekitandise naye njagala okutegeeza okusinziira ku information etambula ne gye tufuna okuva mu nsonda ezeesigika ebintu by'okulayira birabika birina obuzibu bwe birabika nga bugenda kubanga buleetera abakulu abali mu buyinza bw'eggwanga erya Uganda. Ebigambo bye ngenda okukuwa bigambo bya mukyalo wa Jacob Oulanyah eyali sipiika wa parliament nga bwe mbadde nga ntera omukuwa njagala nnyo okulaba ng'ebigambo bino tubisheyalinga olw'ensonga ono yali mukyala wa eyali sipiika yasooka kubeera deputy speaker okumala emyaka 10 n'abeera speaker wa parliament okumala akabanga akatono then n'amala n'afa. Jacob Oulanyah ono yali mukyala we nga baafumbiriganwa mpeta era nga baafumbirigana mu mwaka gwa 2013 kakati omukyalo ono bamuyita Lady Alison agenda maaso n'okubaka ebigambo byagenda maaso n'okuba nga ategeeza eggwanga erya Uganda nga bw'agamba kyeggwanga lye tasobola kulirekerera wabula mu bigambo byaleese ku mulundi guno bye njagala owulirize akatambi kano si kawanvu njagala okawuliriza okamaleyo ayogedde ku nsonga ez'enjawulo z'obadde tomanyi nkugambye ebintu ebigoba Anita Among ffe bye tubadde tumanyi ekyamazima bisukkako wano waliwo olutuulo olwaliwo gye buvuddeko Anita Among n'abaako ebigambo bye yagamba Joel Ssennyonyi naye mbwe ebigambo bino byandibanga bigenda kuzaalira Anita Among akabasambwera kyandibanga ke kaddeke akasembayo ng'ali mu last moments ze mu office y'obwa speaker kyokka teweerabira nakuwadde amawulire nga IGG yamaze okulonkinga baamaze okukola kye bayita kick starting investigations ezigenda okukolebwa Anita Among ajjawa ssente zigenda maaso n'okuba nga azisaasaanya bw'atyo Anita Among ajjawa amaanyi agamuleetera okulowooza nti ajja kuba nga amookinga ne bannayuganda n'okubatuusa ku ssa eryo kakati omukyalo ono alina ebigambo by'ayogera ku mukyala Anita Among bye ssaagala obeere ng'omiisinga njagala owulirize vidiyo eneggweyo ekirungi oluzungu lw'omukyalo ono si lukakali nnyo luwulikika tusobola okulutegeera ngera bwe tuzze nga tubitegeera ebigambo bye ku mulundi guno bikambwemukko ate njagala okutegeeza nti gwagobere era zaagoberera ebigambo bye ebiseera ebisinga ne bino bibeereko akatambi si kawanvu kkiriza nga bulijjo tusooke tujjewo akalango kano then nzije nkuwa ebigambo by'omukyala Lady Winnie Alison ogende maaso n'okuba nga omuwuliriza Anita Among abadde kiki ekimutuuseeko Jeno Yoweri Kaguta Museveni mu kulayira kiki ekyagwawo ekigambibwa okuba nti kirabika essaawa yonna alabika ayolekedde akaseera ak'akazigizigi katujjewo akalango nzije mbeere nga mbikutuusaako.
Nsonga z'obufumbo olina omwami naye ng'akutawaanya olina omukyala ng'akutawaanya bajja ne bakwagalako ne bagenda gwe alina ebizibu mu byenfuna nga ssente zikuyita mu ngalo wooteeka ssente zifa bufi b'owola tebazza gwe aloota ng'ogwa mu nnyanja gwe alumizibwa omutwe nga guganja okuwona naawe aloota ng'ebintu bikozesa ensonga z'obufumbo nina ekifo ku mugga awali amayinja wennyambululirako ebisiraani ekikwa ekifiiriza omudibo obutaganja obutaweebwa nzijanjaba abantu ab'enzikiriza zonna nsiŋŋaanibwa njeru ku lw'ejjinja gwanjagala kuba ku nnamba yange eyo naawe aliye wale nnyo yita ku WhatsApp.
Yes, webali kubanga okyagoberera yonna gy'osinzira okubanga gy'otulabira naddala gw'atambula naffe atanaba kubanga otwegattako kirira wansi awo olaba ekigambo subscribe kikwateko kwata kadde ka notification kakuyamba okubeera omu ku abo abasooka okumanya buli we tuba tutaddeyo ate ne tuba nga tutambula ffenna ng'era bulijjo bwe mbaako kyenfunye nkikuleetera kakati tulina omukyala amanyiddwa nga Lady Winnie Alison mukyala nnamwandu wa Jacob Oulanyah eyali sipiika wa parliament y'eggwanga erya Uganda ng'era eyo y'emu ku nsonga lwaki ebigambo bye sibirekaayo mba njagala ne mbikuleeta kubanga omuntu eyali ku mutendera ogwa sipiika kitegeeza bye yali amanyi byali bingi nnyo tolowooza nti ebyo bye yali amanyi yalinga abigabanako ne mukyala we kakati mukyala we by'amanyi agenda maaso n'okuba nga abireeta n'abigamba bannayuganda bw'abyogera nange nzija wano ngende maaso n'okuba nga ate mbikutuusaako mu bimu ku byayogedde si birungi eri Speaker Anita Among kubanga alina byatutegeezezza nze naawe bye tuyinza okuba nga tubadde tetwawulira wulira.
But I tell you, their plans for Anita will bring her to her knees. And this goes for every Ugandan.
Agamba nti alina by'amanyi era bibabuulira ku nsonga za Anita Among abakama abe kye bali mu kumutegekera enteekateeka gye balina eri Anita Among egenda kumuteeka ku maviivi agende maaso n'okuba nga yeetonda era n'agamba nti kino kigenda eri bannayuganda bonna era nga bwagenda maaso n'okubyogera wuliriza.
So let's start with Anita Among. You remember in the at this parliamentary seating where they talked about the sovereignty bill and they passed the bill.
Agamba mujjukira olunaku lwe baayisa biiru eya sovereignty bill mujijjukira olunaku lwe baagiyisa alinambu ebigambo bye yayogera polo olunaku baayisa ebbaga eryo kyokka jjukira twakuwadde report twakuwadde akatambi nti mu parliament Anita Among gyakubiriza nga sipiika parliament mu bujjufu bwayo naddala ekisanja kino ekiwedde nti parliament eno eyogerwako nga yeesinze okuyisa bills ennyingi ezo naye nga zonna ziri mu kunyigiriza mu kukkakkanya n'okuteeka mu kaseera akazibu bannayuganda. Kakati ono agamba bwe baali bayisa sovereignty bill waliwo ebyaliwo wulira.
One of the things that Anita Among said to Joel Senyonyi, Lope, Anita Among said that it was their last supper.
Nti ku lunaku lwe baayisa ebbago lya sovereignty bill nti Anita Among alina ebigambo bye yagamba Joel Senyonyi era yamutegeeza nti eno ye ssapa yammwe esembayo oba ye ssapa yaabwe eyali esembayo mukadde ako kiki ekyali kiddako wuliriza.
And that is to Joel Senyonyi. And Joel said, what do you mean by that? To tell you how tables have turned. That moment, whatever Anita Among said about being the Last Supper, take it from me that Anita Among is on her very last supper. Things are about to change tremendously. Tremendously. Here's how.
Okitegedde agambye nti yagamba Joel Senyonyi nti eno yandibanga era last supper eyali esembayo simanyi oba yali last supper yaani eya Senyonyi oba eya Anita Among. Kakati omukyalo n'agamba nti ayagala obbategeeza Anita Among supper ye eyase oba ali mu kaddeke akasembayo entebe y'obwa speaker yandibanga egenda muyita mu ngalo akugambye here is how awo ngenda kutuukawo ngenda kukakwongera wabula bwe yabadde agenda maaso n'okwogera kuba akatambi nakugambye si kawanvu nnyo naye ate kalimu information kali detailed ngenda kukakulekera okawulire. Yategeezeza ku nsonga za Museveni mu kulayira. Jjukira mu kulayira kwa Museveni Kagame teyajja. Ebigambo bingi nnyo ebyayogerwa era ebibuuzo bingi nnyo ebyebuuzibwa ti naye omusajja lwaki tazze ebibuuzo ne bibeeraawo. Kakati ono agamba nti abo be bamu bayinza n'okuba nga tewaali nsonga wabula akabadiwe kali ly'eggwanga lya Amerika obutasindika mukungu wa nkizo kubeerawo mu kulayira kw'omukulu era n'ategeeza lwaki pulezidenti w'eggwanga lya Kenya William Semei Ruto bwe yali alayira Amerika yasindika delegation eyali ey'abasajja ab'enkizo lwaki mulowooza mu ggwanga lya Uganda Amerika teyasindika bantu ekyo nakugambye bannayuganda abasinga tebaakisensinga. Kakati ono alina kyakyogerako wuliriza.
Museveni and Kagame are cut from the same cloth, the same ideology. In fact, Museveni planted Kagame in Rwanda, which makes it easy to understand that if he doesn't come, it does not mean anything. Doesn't. Ruto personally wasn't there. He was hosting Macron, the president from France. So it does make sense that he couldn't be there. But all the African presidents, all the other presidents who showed up or sent somebody have some sort of tie to Museveni in some sort of way. The best part is the African Union, which is an African Union. Somehow their ties, he had to be there. I am saying that the lobbyist, the person who was sent from America to go and witness Museveni swearing in, it does not mean the volume like America sent a delegation of 5 representatives to go to Ruto's swearing in 2022. Museveni has a lot of questions around the presidency. The United States is not an exception of knowing the facts.
Agambye nti temwewuunya nnyo eggwanga lya Amerika okubeera nga lyasindika omuntu gwe basindika abasinga obungi bamumanyinga negotiator bamumanyinga omukutuzi wa ddiiru nti era temwewuunya lwaki ebyo byalinga bw'obiwulidde nga bwe yabyogedde wabula era n'agattako bwe yabadde akyagenda mu maaso n'okwogera nkugambye ebintu tebitambula bulungi ng'oba oli awo we bakulowoozesa ono nnamwandu wa Jacob Olokori Olanya eyali sipiika wa paalamenti y'eggwanga erya Uganda. Kakati agamba mu katambi kano nti obadde ng'owulira ebigambo ebigamba nti Museveni ye Koni, Museveni ye Pokoti, Karamoja, Museveni ye Alice Rakwena n'ebirala bifaanana bwe bityo. Kakati ono mukyala we yali sipiika wa paalamenti bw'aba alina ebigambo by'ayogeranga naye abulumiriza bino yeetaaga okuwa amatu. Wulira.
Before we learned exactly who he was and who he is, before we knew that Museveni was Kony, before we knew that Museveni was all these other like ADF in Kasese, before we knew that Museveni was Kony for northern Uganda, before we knew that Museveni was Pokot in Karamoja, before we knew that Museveni was all those proxies that killed and destroyed Ugandans, now that we are awake, Museveni, you have no chance, especially that hoodlum of a son of yours. There is no way,
okategedde ebyo ebigambo njagala obisange mu vidiyo eno gye ngenda ogenda maaso n'okubeera nga nkuwa kuba nkugambye ebigambo yabyogedde byonna weetaaga ogenda maaso n'okuba nga obiwulira naddala gwe atambula naffe ku mukutu guno bw'oba tonaba kuba nga osubscribinga kirira wansi awo olaba ekigambo subscribe kikwateko kwata kade aka notification obeera omu ku abo abasooka okumanya buli we tuba tutaddeyo ebigambo bino njagala obiwa obudde ate era njagala otambulire wamu ne message nga bw'ogenda ogiwulira atannaba kuba nga osubscribinga okikole asobole ogisharinge etuuke ku buli munnayuganda yenna yonna gy'awangaalira asobole okuba nga ate atambuza ensonga eno. Genda mu comment section teekayo kiki ky'otegedde baako ky'obuuza byonna tujja kgenda maaso n'okujja okulaba nga tubikwataganirako wamu nze naawe ng'era bw'omanyi guno mukutu ogwa Redson TV wuliriza ebigambo bino nzije ate mbeere nga nkwongerayo ono ye nnamwandu wa Jacob Oulanyah eyali sipiika otasobola kusuubira nti ayinza okwogera ebyanjwanjwa sibirinaako bukakafu naye njagala obiwulirize naawe ojjemu ky'ojjeemu kiwandiike mu comment section nzije tubeere nga tweyongerayo nga bulijjo.
All along, we didn't know who Museveni was. The fact that he has moved the goalpost every time. He has moved extremes to further extremities just to see what Ugandans can do and how they will react and all of that. But Museveni, I can assure you that if you could not take Uganda when we were sleeping, so to speak, if Museveni could not take back Uganda before we learned exactly who he was and who he is, before we knew that Museveni was Kony, before we knew that Museveni was all these other, like ADF in Kasese, before we knew that Museveni was Kony for northern Uganda, before we knew that Museveni was Pokot in Karamoja, before we knew that Museveni was all those proxies that killed and destroyed Ugandans, now that we are awake, Museveni, you have no chance, especially that hoodlum of a son of yours. There is no way you will rest knowing that you have Uganda. For sure not. The fact that you have sworn in doesn't add to the fact that you are not legitimately a president of Uganda. You can call yourself that. You know, you can see from the attendances of the swearing-in ceremony, most of them were Africans. A few of them were extremely and heavily lobbied from the Western world. For example, the representative from the United States, one person of a delegation who went to the ceremony, that person was heavily lobbied to go and attend the event. Most of the times when the Western world will send somebody to go and do something like that, there are a lot of things involved. Some of it is to go and investigate, to see for themselves who this interesting person is. Also to capture what he might do live or be in the presence of how he may do certain things. So the African presidents who came, I can tell you that those ones came because Museveni somehow has a hand in their involvement, in their existence, in their winning of an election, in their other relationships, you know, like the AU being part of certain organizations. They couldn't avoid to be there because Museveni is somehow entangled in the leaderships of those organizations, which involve those people. Okay, that is the reason they were there. Obviously, his pets, his puppets, like Salva Kiir, he came because his strings are pulled by Museveni. Another one is the lady Suluhu. Of course, she had to be there. She's the puppet of Museveni. Museveni helped her win an illegal election and pronounced her 99% win or whatever. Kagame did not come. You know, they have another can of worms there. Obviously, there's the issues with Congo and because Museveni sort of threw Kagame under the bus. Maybe there's disagreements there, maybe not, but they're of the same camp. Museveni and Kagame are cut from the same cloth. The same ideology. In fact, Museveni planted Kagame in Rwanda, which makes it easy to understand that if he doesn't come, it does not mean anything. Doesn't. Ruto personally wasn't there. He was hosting Macron, the president from France. So it does make sense that he couldn't be there. But all the African presidents, all the other presidents who showed up or sent somebody have some sort of tie to Museveni in some sort of way. The best part is the African Union, which is an African Union. Somehow their ties, he had to be there. I am saying that the lobbyist, the person who was sent from America to go and witness Museveni swearing in, it does not mean the volume. Like America sent a delegation of 5 representatives to go to Ruto's swearing in 2022. Museveni has a lot of questions around the presidency. The United States is not an exception of knowing the facts. Senator Jim Risch has done a phenomenal job highlighting on the atrocities of Museveni. So this gentleman who was sent, it doesn't have to mean that he embellishes any importance. He was lobbied heavily by the Museveni lobbyists in America, in Washington, D.C., because that is their job. The lobbyist is supposed to help Museveni look good. And so he had to find a way to send somebody. So let's just say they found this gentleman and said, you know what? What you do is not that important anyway. We need you to go over there to Museveni for a day or so and come on right back. So just to show you that there was not much value to that. So don't fear, do not worry, do not despair that America is complicit with what he's doing, what Museveni is doing, or the swearing in. They know for a fact that there was no DR forms. They know for a fact that Museveni did not win the election. They know for a fact that this was an illegitimate swearing in. They know for a fact, we have in fact the attorney of His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, Amsterdam, Robert Amsterdam, who knows and has been reporting publicly what Museveni has done and how come Museveni's government is a family cabal and they've performed a lot of atrocities, okay? Everything that we have shared, we have fed into the ICC, the international organizations, the EU, the state, the Department of African Affairs, all of the departments that pertain to Africa and the region and everything and the atrocities that Museveni has continued to commit. So do not despair. I am begging you, do not despair because you saw Museveni swearing in. Do not despair because a representative was sent from the United States. Compare 5 representatives delegation going into Ruto's swearing in ceremony versus one guy who is not publicly known to be anything important. They got him his ticket. They said, go on for a trip. He went on to Uganda, and that was that. Not important. Don't worry about it. The African delegations, the presidents who were sent, obviously have ties to Museveni somehow. But you also saw that some of them did not turn up. There's a big number that they're showing of, I think, 47 or 57 delegations or presidents or representatives from other countries. Not really. If you count, we did not have even 15 or 20 nations represented. That's for sure. You can look at the videos. Okay. Something else that marred the event. You saw that Museveni, as like every swearing in or the appropriacy of swearing in ceremonies, never in the past years that Museveni has come up and they've announced and all of that he had to have the CDF hand him the instruments of power. It is normally supposed to be handed in, yes, by some CDFs, but it should have been handed in by the Electoral Commission chief or chair or whoever that is, that person. As we had talked about how the events would happen, they tweaked a lot of things. A lot was changed so that we don't look right. Okay? For example, I told you that Museveni would be presenting Muhoozi like Simba in the movie The Lion King when the lion had a baby and was presenting that baby to the kingdom saying, this is your successor, because in the kingdom, that is how it works. But Uganda is not a kingdom. So essentially, this event was to present Muhoozi as the future. Even as Museveni swears in, you can see in his half-life, Museveni has deteriorated. He looks tired. He doesn't feel complete. He knows that he stole the election. He knows that he's lying. He knows that we are all witnessing a lie. He doesn't know what to tell the other people. His wife is dead and is in the fridge or at home or on the dinner table or on his bed. I mean, he cannot adjudicate to that. The guy is supposed to be miserable. He's trying to look strong. Muhoozi cannot handle this thing. The guy looks half full as a human being. You can tell that they're empty. They're just vessels parading out there. This was truly to present Muhoozi. As you can see, his deliverance when he came in the first time, you can see the handing over of the instruments of there was supposed to be, Dennis, thank you. The public service person was supposed to hand over those instruments to Museveni, not Muhoozi. But in essence, they had to change things a bit because of what we had already talked about. But everything that they did was truly, as we had said, they tweaked it just a little bit. The other thing I mentioned was that Museveni, Janet would not be there. As you saw, the presidential dinner the day before, when he hosted the people who had come in to swear in, truly, Janet was not there. As we had said it, they tried everything possible. They even have a video that they put together to try to present Janet in a video if he did not come to the event, but he came to the event and he couldn't bring a dead body to the event. But that just goes to show you how evil and sick these Muhoozi Museveni people are. Imagine he has lost his wife. Muhoozi has lost his mother. But the ceremony continued like nothing has happened. I mean, that is the darkest of hearts I've seen. Museveni is the worst person I have heard of in my life, and I've not lived very long. Since I was born into his presidency. All I've known is Museveni's presidency. That's how come now I can talk, because I know so much about it. I have lived it. But to show you that these people are sick in their head and they're dark and they will do anything to they could have slaughtered everybody at Kololo and walked away like nothing happened. Which doesn't negate the fact that they may have done something to all those people, and I'll get to that. How sick is it that this man, the planned Semwandu, goes on to handle an event like a swearing-in ceremony where Janet is usually known as Mama, Mother of the Nation, Mama Janet. You know, she's dead, not there. The guy doesn't speak about her. The son does not speak about her. Despite all the questions, they move on like nothing happened. I mean, he never mentions the absence of Janet. Like, literally, it is obvious. Everyone is questioning it. Not a word. That is how sick these people are. It is said that Janet was already buried in Tanzania. But obviously, they are going to perform some sort of burial ceremony in Uganda because Janet, before she passed, foresaw Uganda getting completely messed up. And she knew that Ugandans no longer want them. So what he did, she wrote in one of her last rites and said, I would rather be buried where we can call home for a longer term. Because in Uganda now, people hate us, and I could probably be dug out in a moment of, Ugandans disagreeing or whatever the case might be. She was worried that she may get dug out and burned or just played around with, because Ugandans are just waiting to celebrate the news. We know she's gone. And we are dying to celebrate because for once, these people have felt it where it matters. But let me tell you, we could be wrong, because these people are sick as the devil himself. Sick. They showed no remorse. That means whatever they're going to do for the next government, the next 5 years or the next time they're in power, is going to be worse than you can imagine. So brace yourselves for it, Uganda. It's going to get worse. I promise you. It's going to get worse if we don't do anything. If we don't do anything, it's only going to get worse. Yes, Dennis, but we need it on a large scale. For all Ugandans to be on the streets, everybody do what they do to celebrate so that we can celebrate the demise of this woman. It is time for Ugandans to enjoy something. And this one is top of the list. So they are afraid of the questions Ugandans will have regarding Janet when they come out in June or July to say truly she has died and we need to make a formal burial of Janet in Uganda. So what they are going to bury is not going to be the Janet, the person of Janet. They are going to create some sort of thing, a doll or whatever, mold something like Janet and put it for public display. You know, sometimes Museveni doesn't allow for coffins to be opened of dead people. When Jacob Olanya passed away, rest his soul, I know that one of the things that people had talked about and asked me said, wait a minute, we have not seen him. When I shared on my page that Museveni had refused to allow the coffin to be opened for his final viewing, he finally let it open. But in common practice, it is common practice that people like Kasirye Gwanga, Museveni burned his body and made coffee ground out of him and uses that coffee for people who visit State House. It's mixed up in other coffee. So people who visit State House and have some coffee, take a sip of some of the people that Museveni refused their coffins to be opened for final viewing, and Museveni has a guard on their graves. They have a guard on their graves. So I spoke about how come they were not opening the coffin of Jacob Alanya, and then he chose to open it. Otherwise, he had refused. Okay? It is the reason why there are certain graves in Uganda that Museveni puts a military guard, 3, 4, 6 of them, on the grave. I don't know why. I know why. Because he wants people not to dig it up and find information and find out if their person is truly in there, if anything at all is in there. Because most people who have died have been taken to Museveni first for his personal sacrifices, whatever he does. There are sick things that I heard he has done to the father of my children. It is insane to even think about, but he has done it. Listen, if Museveni can behave like this at the funeral, at a celebration, doesn't mention his wife, believe me, these guys are sick. I'm going to tell you some things that I think is going to blow your mind. Some of these things that I'm telling you, I can't even explain. I've never seen, never experienced, but I've gotten the information from the source. So I want you to share it so you can imagine the evil in the sick people who are leading Uganda right now. Sick, insane. Yes, Zuleika, the body of the bishop. I mean, these guys are something else. You know, one of the things, the plans that they have going forward. After saying that there will be no sleep, they mean it. In what they mean is the fact that in Buganda, especially, they are going to cause the most distraction because they believe Buganda is one of the reasons they're failing in their attempts. I want to say this to Museveni again, that I know that you may watch this. If Museveni failed to take over and completely flip over Uganda and make it Rwandi's federation or whatever he dreams of, or make it their dynasty, while we were sleeping, while Lumbuye was not here, while we were not actively involved in questioning everything about Museveni, why does he think he can do it now? It's impossible to do it now. Impossible. Museveni, it is impossible for you to do this now when we are awake. There's no way. We are questioning everything. We're looking at everything with a magnifying glass. We are dissecting everything you do. Whatever you say is no longer superficial. We are looking in the details. We are smuggling security alerts right from under your nose. There is no way you have us. I'm saying protecting the gains was not meant for Ugandans. So every speech of Museveni is going to be dissected, is going to be researched, is going to be broken down. We are not going to swallow your pills like we used to, Museveni. If you couldn't get us then, if you could not take Uganda before we woke up, my dear, it's too late for you. It's too late. The best thing we have is time. We have all the time in the world. And I'm not saying we're going to live forever. And I'm not saying that we'll outlive Museveni. Because death and life is not on us. God makes that decision. Anything can happen to anyone at any time. But I'm saying that in general terms, Museveni has no time left. Museveni is desperate. We have time. And we can get this done today, tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, anytime, because we have time. There are so many Kyagulanyi Sentamus all over the world that love Uganda, that are friends for Uganda, that are born Ugandans, that are outside of Uganda, that are inside of Uganda, that Museveni, no matter what you do, you have no time and you don't have a stampede like we do. So this is temporary. Yes, you got a representative from the United States, but it's not a 5 delegation like they went to see President Ruto. You have a lobbyist in the US who can get anything done, but we also have our ways. So we are not disappointed. We are not We are not in despair. I ask everyone to wake up. Whatever you are doing, do it 150% now. More than you've done it before. More than you have done it before. We have this guy. We have got this guy because we have time. We have time. We have energy. We have life. We mean well. We did not steal anything. We are happy to be doing what we are doing, even on empty stomachs. The people whose houses are being broken in Kampala or anywhere in Uganda, those are people who supported Museveni. Those are people in Museveni's camp. They're crying now. Museveni has hammered Nup. He has beaten Nup people. He has killed. He has destroyed everything. We have nothing more to lose. We are ready to just jump on his jugular. You have everything going for you. Camp loss. Camp Museveni. They have everything to lose. We have everything to gain. Those are two teams. We have everything to gain. When they break those buildings, they're not ours. Okay? So it is up to you, who is young, to be smart and brilliant, not to go for that rice that Museveni is making because it's poisonous. Not to accept small money because the future is large. This small money that you're going to get will take you nowhere. Nowhere. These Balaam people are giving you this, that, and the other. Please don't accept that money. Stand strong and be bold. Do not accept to be fooled, to work for the Musevenis. I'm going to give you a typical example of a Ugandan who has worked for Museveni diligently. And it is time for Museveni to kill her. It is time. Ugandans, wake up and choose to be on the right side of history. Anita Among. Anita Among is an example I'm going to bring to all Ugandans working for Museveni. Anita Among she's now fat enough for the slaughter. Let me go to that first anyway. So, according to, you saw during the swearing in ceremony, Anita Among tried to speak with Muhoozi. Muhoozi was so disgusted that he could not bear to give her a glimpse of his eyes. It was just too much. He could not even look at Anita Among. And yet Anita is staring right at her. That is a picture of a true Uganda today. Today, that is where Uganda is. Uganda is Anita Among. The Muhoozis, the Musevenis is Muhoozi's picture. That figure of Muhoozi and Anita Among. Anita Among represents Uganda and Muhoozi represents the dictatorship. You can tell how disgusted Muhoozi is. He doesn't even want to look at her despite what she's trying to tell him. Meanwhile, this woman just passed a bill for them in a very rudimentous way. She did not think that tomorrow things would change. But I tell you, their plans for Anita will bring her to her knees. And this goes for every Ugandan. So let's start with Anita Among. You remember at the parliamentary seating where they talked about the sovereignty bill and they passed the bill. One of the things that Anita Among said to Joel Senyonyi, Anita Among said that it was their last supper. And that is to Joel Senyonyi. And Joel said, what do you mean by that? To tell you how tables have turned. That moment, whatever Anita Among said about being the last supper, take it from me that Anita Among is on her very last supper. Things are about to change tremendously. Tremendously. Here's how. So far, there's been talk about Anita Among not becoming a Speaker of Parliament anymore. There is also talk about Tayewa, but Tayewa is one of them. You just never know. I'm not going to bet anything on that. But for Anita Among, it is clear that she's no longer going to be Speaker of Parliament. Everything that Anita Among has done, everything the government has on her, remember the case where this lady Nandutu is in prison for, all that involves Anita Among. Anita Among has been fattened and she's ready for the slaughter by the NRM government. That's exactly how it happens every time for everybody who has died working for Museveni. This is the same script. Those of you who are rushing to work for Museveni, this same script follows you. Museveni will not take you on and give you a lot of power if he has nothing on you. They have enough on Anita Among. This is what they want to do to Anita Among. Atika wachi, Anita Among don kara ne oramo, me abaya, me aya, inero, kiwachi joma gire, joma gwago le charo upego ni. Upego pe chate ma food pia no fuki. Pien kilo ne no po barwate, bene pe chate ma be, wele pe war ma be. Ento upego ka do fuki o ma be. Ene don ngo, one upego, one farm don wai kara ne do ro meter ne chuk. Anita do upego ma do kero fuki don ma be. Uramatera de chuk, abititi how. Muhozi gi, gini Museveni gi, gini mafia gi, guwachi, gino miragi kwang timu ne ena ye, kwanyu kwa pachwa Anita makilwani ya Magogo ni yoko. The first thing they want to do is take away the life of Magogo, Anita's husband, Triple A's husband. Okay? They want to bring her to her knees. While that happens and she's wallowing in tears, all of the crimes that Anita Among has committed will all come back to life. Kaki tiyo kwanyu kwa pachware makilwani Magogoni, mabeno chamu chana madira ta I Football Federation, kono Federation of Football, kona nga gini. Actually, Magogo has tons of other cases, including match fixing and stealing a lot of money made for the Football Federation. All of those crimes are on the table. Museveni has the file of all of Anita Among's troubles, and they're coming. They're coming in droves. So after her husband has been taken away, lost his life basically, all of Anita's crimes, including those of the ones including, what's her name? Nandutu. Nandutu is in prison, remember, for corruption and Mabati thief and, something that had to go to Karamoja. It is the reason Anita Among is sanctioned. The same crimes that make Nandutu in prison today and Anita Among out is the same crime that caused the sanctions, corruption, one of them, okay? Several other corruption cases, such as the Mpuga deal, where Anita Among was behind giving Mpuga the 500 million. All of those, even if they were ordered or Museveni instructed Anita on how to weave those crimes, they're no longer, nobody else is responsible except the executor, who is Anita Among. All those crimes are coming back to life. After Magogo has been killed, they want to put Anita in a position between two walls where she cannot reveal all the dirt she has done with Museveni. All of the things that Museveni has sent her to do, Anita will not be able to talk about. Because if she opens her mouth, she already has several crimes of corruption on her. She has already lost her husband. She already tested positive for poison. Anita will be like this. And all of you who depend on her will have no access to her because Museveni wants her gone, going, gone. It is serious. I'm saying that for the most part, in Museveni's world, in Uganda, people who have worked with Museveni and have gained and have reached some sort of peak or have reached a prime, I'm trying to say, where somebody feels like, you know what, I've reached here. I don't think if I slip, I'll fall too hard, or I'll lose so much, or my family will go back to zero, or, or if I stay here, I'm comfortable. I can take care of it from here. Or if I go up, it'll be well and good. If I don't, I'm okay right here. So Museveni has seen that when people have worked under him and have reached that stage whereby you take him for opening ceremony of your house, or you open your company, or you go and say, oh, President, look what I've done, including bringing the Rolls Royce. That was a place where Anita should have been humble about and maybe not reached. And I'm talking a few steps back. This is not the right place where she should have thought twice. But because she's here, she's in her prime, she's at her prime stage, the best ever. Muhozi came out and said, I have never sat in a Rolls Royce in my 52 years. And I know for a fact that my father, who has been my father in 52 years, has never sat in a Rolls Royce. A Rolls Royce is a car for royalty. And it doesn't mean royalty of just the kingdom, of the United Kingdom. No. Rolls Royces are made in England. Yes. They used to be made for the royal family. But people like Steve Harvey's and, the who's of the world now have a Rolls Royce. I get that, because they can afford it. Those vehicles are made in limited editions and numbers. They're not like Toyotas, which are produced like I don't know, 5 million every 3 months. No. Rolls Royces are made precisely to taste of those people who have earned that taste. Earning meaning you have worked for it, not corruption like Anita Among. So she got the car and pissed off the people who gave her the opportunity. So it's time, because Anita is now fat enough to be slaughtered. I was referencing in Acholi that a farmer of a pig does not take the pig to the market before it's fat enough. The goal of farming or pig farming is to have an animal worth some money. When you slaughter it, its weight is good enough to bring you best income possible. And Anita has arrived there. According to the Muhozis, Anita has already ingested poison. She refused to go out to North Korea or some part of the other world because she's trying to stay in and win the speakership against Norbert Mao. I don't know if there are other people at play yet, but if they are, there is such a thing. Okay? She refused to go out for treatment and invited doctors to come in because she has the money. Again, this is the money from those people who are pissed off. Okay? So after Magogo is taken away, all the corruption cases will be brought to life because they don't want her to speak of all the evils she has helped the Musevenis do. For herself, personally, some of things she has executed on her own. Most of it she has executed on orders. But this is the Chisanja. This is the time they need to clear evidence. He wants to pave way for his son Muhoozi to take charge. As foolish as he might be, Museveni thinks that maybe as he stands on one leg, he may succeed somehow. Like I said, these people are in a place where they either have to die in power or die in power. Because as soon as they are not in power, they know that even their chicken will not survive in Uganda. Their chicken will not live in Uganda. Everything Museveni will be erased permanently if they are no longer in the leadership. That is why Museveni came half a human being to Kololo to swear in on a position that he stole the election. The results were not pronounced. Everything about the swearing in was rogue. Everything was rogue. And everybody who came to witness, everybody's whispering, swi, 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 because they know the illegitimacy of the whole thing. President Tshisekedi of Felix of Congo. I mean, some of you have to see it to believe it. He was advised not to come because Museveni and Kagame are pissed off for him trying to get, for getting Kagame in trouble by the accord that was signed with President Trump of the United States. Because he did not honor it, President Kagame and a lot of his executives have been sanctioned. They can't travel. So, because of that anger, and knowing that Museveni is Kagame, they're basically just, one is a shadow of the other, he came anyway to Uganda for Museveni's swearing in. And so, Museveni and Kagame swore that Tshisekedi will not leave the same way he came. But he was warned. We made sure he got the message, but he didn't listen. So, in the next few whatever, you will hear of ailments of President Tshisekedi and this, that, and the other, because he had special treatment given to him by M23, the same soldiers who were pissed off by him expelling them from Congo. We can only do what we can do. Okay? I just do what I can. We do what we can. But I'm telling you, Ugandans, don't lose faith, don't lose hope, because you are best positioned. I will stress the fact that your camp of change, I use my right hand, because you are strong, you are powerful, you have time, you have lost everything. You are hungry for change. You are staring at a crumbling country. You can do this. You have no stain of blood on your hands. You're not guilty for stealing anything. In fact, you are right and righteous. You are in the best shape possible. Going on to this camp, they've stolen so much. They've committed so much crime. They are they are evidence in every sort of crime document that has been filed anywhere. Museveni Muhoozi does not miss on any any human rights violations document that has been filed all over the world. They are in videos. I mean, we have information. We have so much against these people. The last thing they have is time. Museveni is half a human being now. When Museveni has to get out to be in public, he has vitamin shots like crazy. He's probably given shots of adrenaline just to keep him up on a string for a little bit. The reason why he walks with his daughter, or he takes his daughter to events and this and that, is because his daughter is the only one who can serve him food. His daughter is there because in case he falls, she can help rescue him. In case he falls. Look at the plans when Museveni has to go anywhere. They plan for diapers. They plan to change his catheter. They plan to make sure his hand's looking right. They plan to make sure he doesn't fall. They plan to make sure he has the shots of adrenaline or vaccines, whatever, to keep him powerful, strong. They have to plan on what he's going to say. He has to rehearse it like 500 times. They plan on what is he going to eat. They plan on his toilet following him. They plan on his meal, who is going to serve him, who is going to eat it. While this successful camp that wants change, you just get up and go. You walk free. Museveni cannot walk without that popcorn container. You are free. You get up and go. You are hungry. You want change. People are looking at Museveni with thoughts. Have you ever looked at somebody who you cannot say something to, but your wheels are turning in your head? But that person knows that you know something, but you're just not saying it. That is Museveni's predicament. Everybody who looks at him has questions, has wheels turning in their head. But this guy is bold as something. Bold as something. That just has to show you that when you have somebody like this at hand, you know how much they fear you. Museveni fears Ugandans. That is why anytime he travels, 30 kilometers back and forth is sealed off. Nobody travels. It's the power of Ugandans. But most of all, the people working for Museveni must come out and do the right thing. Because like Anita Among, it is coming. It is coming. I have so much respect for certain people. I have. But when the time comes for these people to do dangerous things, they will. Honorable Mao, I have so much respect for you. But you are getting in the pockets of, I mean no disrespect, and I'll stop there. You know what I mean. We all know their future. The ones working for Museveni. Anita Among's steps could have been told by anyone who has known Museveni for a while. For a while. But we just, you know, when you say something so much that you just let it be, and to be so short-sighted that these people go into these things knowing what happened to that person before. They know. I use the father of my children a lot because I knew him and I respect him, and it's not because I disrespect him that I speak. He's an example because I knew him and I have so much respect, and I hope other people learn. Lokech, for example, he was rising up the ranks. He said something about being president. Museveni was like, what did you say? In a moment, he was gone. What type of ambition do you have that has a ceiling? How can you be in a place where you're not allowed to raise the ranks? Because Anita once mentioned, in fact, the fear of Museveni and Muhoozi is that Anita Among and her husband are preparing to become the next president and whatever of Uganda. As lousy as that sounds, that is the fear Museveni has. That is how much Museveni fears Ugandans. That he even has dreams, hallucinations that make him actually take action, like killing Anita Among and her husband. Hallucinations. I don't see Magogo being a president of Uganda. I don't see Anita Among being a president of Uganda, because we will never choose Anita Among. But Museveni fears that. I don't know how. Uganda will never choose Anita Among for president. Even if Anita Among was the only qualified, let's say, even if Anita Among was the only one running against other Ugandans, Anita Among cannot win presidency. But to show you how Museveni is afraid, Museveni fears that the status of Anita Among could make her a president of Uganda and make his son lose his place before his eyes as president. You can imagine. That is how much these people fear us. In the Western world, nobody has a right to tell you that it is time for you to be killed. No. In fact, if somebody sent me a text message with a threat saying, I'm going to kill you, that's enough to get them in jail. Attempted murder. That's it. These Museveni people and cronies, they think they can do anything to everyone. No. Somebody attempts that to me, sends me a message, I take that to the police, they are going to jail. Period. Nobody can touch me just because they want to. No. You touch me at your own risk. Because you're going to jail. I will sue, and that's it. Once I take you to the police, before they say you did it or not, you will be held at least for 24 hours. It's the law. It's the law. So, the representation of Anita Among speaking to Muhoozi at the swearing-in ceremony depicts exactly where Uganda is, where Anita Among represents Ugandans and Muhoozi represents the refugee camp at the State House. And all that they do, everything they stand for is in that man. Standing and not even worth, Anita is not worth Muhoozi's eyes while he talks to her or she talks to him. That is where Uganda is. Killing of Magogo symbolizes killing Ugandans. So it is up to Uganda to do something. I spent a lot of time on that. But let's get to the next things. So I told you about what they said about, what Museveni said about no sleep and no more corruption. No more corruption, referencing Anita Among and other people. All those people working for Museveni, Museveni has something on them, including religious leaders. As I mentioned a few weeks ago, religious leaders who become the who's in religion in Uganda they start in Luwero, because in Luwero is where Museveni grooms the next leaders of the religious sect. I'm talking mostly about the Protestant church, the Kazimba Mugalus type people. Okay, the saved groups and all that, those denominations, because obviously for the Catholic Church it's different. It doesn't come from everywhere. So what happens in Luwero to those religious leaders upcoming, Museveni is raising into positions. What Museveni does is he gets them entangled with young ladies in some hotel or bar or something in Luwero. And those ladies are staged by the Musevenis. Those ladies are on a mission to go and do those things, recording videos, and those videos are shared with the Musevenis.
Ensonga z'obufumbo olina omwami naye ng'akutawanya, olina omukyala ng'akutawanya, bajja ne bakwagalako ne bagenda. Gwe alina ebizibu mu byenfuna nga ssente zikuyita mu ngalo, w'oteeka ssente zifa bufi, b'owola tebazza. Gwe aloota ng'ogwa mu nnyanja, gwe alumizibwa omutwe nga guganja okuwona, naawe aloota ng'ebintu bikozesa ensonga z'obufumbo. Nina ekifo ku mugga awali amayinja we nnyambululirako ebisiraani, ekikwa, ekifiiriza, omudibo, obutaganja, obutaweebwa. Nzijanjaba abantu ab'enzikiriza zonna, nsiŋŋaanibwa njeru ku lw'ejjinja. Gwanjagala kuba ku nnamba yange eyo, naawe ali ewala ennyo yita ku WhatsApp.